Hi, I'm Dolly Vasta, and welcome back once again to For Art's Sake. A few weeks ago, I received a call from a lovely lady who is an artist here in East Brunswick. I looked over some of her work, and guess what? We're here today taping. In fact, I am surrounded by her wonderful pieces. In fact, I'd like you to come with me while we have a chat with artist May Bender. May, you had a very interesting quote in the newspaper who did an article on you, and I'm going to refer to it. Actually, I'm going to read it.
Go ahead.
All right? You said, "I'm interested in color, design, shape. I'm not interested in telling stories." Usually, when you are at a gallery or you see works by an artist, there's always supposed to be a story connected to it. And I was most interested. In fact, that one, to me, that quote was, the whole article.
It stopped you.
Yeah, it stopped me right there.
Right. Well, actually, you see, if you're looking around, you'll see a few things that will tell a story. I mean, if I have boats, I'm telling a story about boats. If I have something a little political, I'm telling something political. The one down the back there in Bulgaria, we were in Sofia, and I made a depiction from my photographs of that. And you'll find some upstairs, too. But generally, I do not believe in that. I like to do figurative stuff, and I like to do abstract stuff, and non-objective, and what I call geometrics. And they don't tell stories, and I don't particularly feel obliged to tell something. I expect that people will find whatever they want in a painting anyhow. So.
Well, the word culture, I have used this word, culture.
Yeah.
I had a call many years ago by a gentleman who was running for office, and he said to me, "How do you get culture? Can you teach me culture in the next few weeks?" And I thought though that it was an excellent question, because what is it really?
Culture is it begins when you're born practically. It's your environment, it's the people you associate with, and it's essentially your own interests that you develop over the years. If you're talking about culture in literature, then obviously it's reading and finding out what's happening. The same thing is also true of art. It's looking at all kinds of art and music, listening to it. If you're talking about a societal culture, that's another story, because again, it depends on society and which groups you're in, wherever you want. But culture, you don't just teach somebody, you direct them perhaps to tell them this is this kind of thing here. For instance, let's stick to art for a moment. If they know nothing about abstract art, you're going to show them which is abstract and why it's abstract, or figurative or what else. So you can do something to a point, at least to set up some guidelines.
How and where did you get started?
Well, I was born in Newark. I've always drawn or painted. I was just remembering the other day that I did a little drawing, a profile of my sister when I was 4 years old on a brown paper bag. So I guess I've always had a pencil in hand. I started doing the packaging and that sort of thing when I was 12, actually, working. My brother was a big salesman, and I was the artist doing that. So I've always been in some form of commercial packaging of product design in that direction, not advertising, although I've done that as well. And I guess I always drew my first box of pastels. My older brother, who's also an artist, he gave me a small box of pastels, and I did a copy of a Degas when I was 12. It was really quite good. Somebody wanted it. So I guess I've always somehow been drawing whatever, as long as I can remember. And I went to the Arts High School in Newark after I graduated from grammar school. And I moved along very nicely in that. In fact, I was fortunately with a class that had seniors in it, and so I learned quite a bit from them as well as myself. I had some accommodating teachers. I liked that. And from there, but I also I was a valedictorian at the Arts High School, so I didn't neglect my studies in any way. But then I'm kind of smart.
You also won a Clio. Now, a lot of people don't
That goes
know what
that you made a
Clio
big
is.
jump on that one there. See, I was doing packaging. I did packaging in Newark. Again, my brother was the head of the so-called company. I was the junior partner. And then we had moved to New York. And I've been doing packaging ever since, and product design that goes along with it, and other things such as display, exhibits, and that sort of thing. Now, the Clio is named after, I guess, the muse of one of the muses of art, is that. And there's a competition, not really a competition. People send their drawings and paintings and packaging and advertising and television, videos, everything to be judged. And not packaging, I'll tell you about that, but all the other things have been international kind of thing. And one of the men who ran the thing asked me if I would be interested in setting some bylines and for the package design. I said I'd be very happy to set up standards for that kind of thing. And I was a judge for a number of years on packaging. You don't judge your own, but whatever. And they did a very nice job on that too. So I won. I forgot what year that was. It was in the 80s, is that or something? I have to go upstairs and look at the Clio. And I won for that particular line, which was, I'm sorry, forgive me, I don't even remember. It's a black line of packaging, but it's also the interiors of the product that holds a product.
Well, it's very prestigious, though.
It's very prestigious. I hate to tell you what happened to the Clio after that, but that's another story.
But that's a story for another day.
That's another one.
Yeah. But weren't you able to raise your rates up? I know with the Oscars and the Emmys and things like that.
Everybody's very impressed, but I don't know if it makes much difference when you're selling packaging. It's really, packaging is a marketing problem. To do a package is for a product that's to be marketed, and you have to be very knowledgeable about the marketing aspects of it as well as design. And there's so many different parameters, and I just can't even begin to tell you about developing a decent package. Now, I worked in the cosmetic industry, I worked in some of the food industry, I worked in hard products such as for Conair, that kind of thing, and Procter Silex. I designed something. That's hard products, and also some of the pharmaceuticals. I was a consultant for a while, for several years, for Warner Lambert in the cosmetic area. And a lot of candy, did a tremendous amount of that. So it's, you know, it depends. You kind of wind up specializing in a way because people know you within an area, pharmaceuticals, etc. Gillette.
Did you finally get tired of doing that?
I think I finally, after so many years, not so much. I mean, after I was also, I had staff, but I was still involved in the selling and everything else. So it's a burden. There's no question about it. After 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it becomes a burden. But it has changed. Its whole character changed. It changed with the advent of the computer, because design is now being done very much with computers. We used to do, you'll see some on the shelves there, if you want to photograph that are what I call comprehensives. They are duplicates of what will be, many of them, and you show them to the client. And they were done by hand, every bit of it, you know. I mean, you might print a little color up or something else, and they were assembled by hand. Now, you can do a printout, you know, and you put something on the screen, and the client will look at it, or you can look at it, and you say, well, move it to the left, move it to the right, make it bigger, make it smaller. We didn't do that. Everything was hand done. And so that really made me very concerned about doing it any longer. In fact, several of my colleagues have also retired because of that. In other words, you have staff, and the staff doesn't, what are they going to do? All working on the computer, you know, you're no longer designing. And I'm not very happy with the package design that's out there today, anyhow. I think it's rather crude. I remember, and I have many graphist magazines who stand by me, when design was really elegant. And that goes the Japanese, the Italian particularly, and a lot of European, and even our own here. When design was elegant, it's not anymore.
So you got tired of doing packaging?
Not tired, I felt it was time to stop.
Okay, it was time to stop. You took up painting then, just?
No, I've been painting all my life. I've met a lot of the paintings, well, upstairs and maybe a few down here, are from what I did at the League, at the Art Students League. I spent from 67 to 73, I believe, something like that. and I would go once a week after a hard day's work. I would go up to the league to relax and work real hard again. But I've always painted, except for probably a hiatus. It was a few years after that when I was quite busy. But I've always painted. I didn't just, but I decided, listen, I'm going to paint, just paint. So after I decided, my last project, which you may be familiar with, or one of the next to the last project, was for bagel chips, New York style bagel chips. You're probably familiar with them.
Oh, yes.
And I redid it to the point, I just, it's a total redesign. I gave it some, I think, quality and class. Enough so that Nabisco bought the company out, so, you know, and changed it right back to some corny, ugly-looking thing, but typical of Nabisco. They'll love to hear this. I'm trying to get some paintings in the Nabisco gallery. They'll love to hear this. But nonetheless,
they can write to you, not to me.
Yeah, well, nonetheless, as I said before, I'm not crazy about this packaging today. It's blatant, and what can I tell you? You know,
Looking at all your work, you do not work on a small scale, but on a big scale. Small does not seem to be in your vocabulary.
maybe the small was the packagers, I don't know. But I find that I'm expressing myself better. I have a long swoop. I have done many paintings which are upstairs, and if you like, I'll show them to you later, which what I call gestural. There's one down the hall, down that particular gallery, in which I even use wall painters' brushes like that. So get this swoop, they're for freedom, because just before that, that was at the league too, just before that I worked tight. And I became, hey, what are you saving the paint for? What are you saving anything for? Just move it and use it. And I did that. And that was a particular facet and phase of my life in which I had that kind of freedom. And that calls for size. I mean, you can't do that on little pieces of paper. We've done enough little pieces of paper. So it's, I think that freedom is what I like. I like the scale of it. I like the scale of it.
Don't you think you have more freedom the older you get to?
The what?
The older one gets, you have more freedom.
If that's the way you are, I think some people probably just squeeze themselves back in. Well, I do, and I don't know that many older painters right now, so I can't tell you.
Well, your work is very explosive.
Yes, energized. As a matter of fact, the red one down here, which was on exhibit at the Georgian Court College, that was my last exhibit. My major exhibit. And I remember one man in particular, whether he's staff or not, I just don't remember. Look at the energy that's in there. And that seemed to be what impressed them most. And they're very energetic, right?
And all of your pictures, even though they're done, many of them are done in the cooler shades, they still have that energy level.
Yeah, the color doesn't matter. I mean, energy's a movement. You see it in the yellow one, you see it in that one over there. That's one of my latest ones over there, which I'm very fond of. I guess that's what I think. I mean, it warms me up.
In other words, motion to you, literally, does not mean any particular color.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't associate it that way. In fact, to be more pragmatic, if I've been working in blues and greens, the next one I'm going to do reds and yellows or something else, I need that change of, I don't want to use venue, need that change of color, of composition, of subject, and I do mean subject. For instance, if I've done some celebrations, which is a lot of action, I might just go off and do something that's quite different, that's quiet, I guess you might call it the geometrics, which are very constrained and very definitive kind of thing, quite the opposite. And I need that kind of come and go, of push and pull, whatever you want to call it. And I'll do some, I'll do figurative things too. And these are all in between. And for me, it's good. For other people or galleries, they say, well, why don't you do one style? Well, one style I would find very tedious and boring. I couldn't do the same thing over and over. I mean, it would become the same thing over and over. But I think the different styles are typical. Whether that's a throwback to packaging, it may very well be, you know, sort of thing, because you can't do something for a candy that you would do for a pharmaceutical. It's quite different. So perhaps that has something to do with, I don't know, I'm just reaching at this point. But I like to do a variety of things.
Do you have inspirations for your work? Or don't you have any inspirations?
Yes and no. Sometimes I say, my God, what am I going to do next, you know, that sort of thing. I make a lot of small maquettes, little sketches, little something. If I'm doing something else, I do that in my work area there. And I may have maquettes for most of these things here. I play with the colors, and I'd like to do something like that. Or I may have something left over from my paintings or something of that nature too, and I'll play with that and make something out of that. Or I may look at some of my photographs. For instance, if you look the one all the way down here, that was done based on, we were in Sofia, my husband was giving a talk there in Bulgaria, and we looked around town, there were all these wonderful statues, or wonderful or not wonderful, but the Russians had been there and it had a particular kind of a character, and that big monument in the center of town. So I took photos of those and I assembled that. And I actually enjoy doing that thing. It's parts of it are quite grim and the town is grim. So that's that particular one. I like the Navarone, that's it. In Portugal, the boats, the sardine boats and they probably relate to when I have a nice time like that. I did also in Bulgaria, and you probably saw it on the stairs, is the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral right in the center of town. It's a monstrous, have you been there?
No.
No, but it's a monstrous, gorgeous place, and I took a number of pictures, and I did a painting from my photograph. But I can't say from my photograph because it's an abstract. So you say that's what inspired it. I have another one upstairs too, and I'm only pointing out specifics, which is of Sibelius. We were in Helsinki, and they take you on tours and stuff like that. And there's a big monument of and if you look at it again, which look like organ pipes, I suppose, monstrous thing. And I took some pictures of that in a hurry as the bus is waiting to leave. And so I took some, and they also a head of Sibelius, because nobody believes Sibelius did, what would they know from the organ pipes? But I did indeed photograph that. And I did, I think, a very handsome painting upstairs. So that's an inspiration. I'm always doodling for what I call the geometrics, and that goes back to my product design, perhaps, kind of thing. And I'm interested in architecture very much so. So I think those are outgrowths of that kind of thing.
Are you ever afraid that you won't have another inspiration?
Always.
Are you really?
No. I don't know. I said, what do I do now? I do say that. I said, what's next, you know? Or I've done that. I've been there, did that. So it becomes quite a problem there.
It's like an author who's written so many successful books, and they must, the ones I've talked to,
they don't go up, they go down.
are always worried about where will the next one come from.
No question. And it can fall out of nowhere. In fact, I know which one in particular. I call it Pentimento. I took pictures of in the Toronto Museum, and it was a Henry Moore. It was a big maquette of a reclining figure, and I love Henry Moore. I love his work. I think it's beautiful. And I said, gee, I wonder if I can do something with that, which I did. I started with the Henry Moore, and I said, well, why am I doing this? What's the connection with anything? I said, well, it's a very famous sculptor. And I said, well, how about putting in some very well-known structures of the world? So I added to that as background. I have anything from the Kremlin to the Louvre to the Eiffel Tower to our capital to the Vietnam Wall and all those. And I painted it all very tightly and very carefully, and which is not my ambition on that particular painting. So I went over it with quite a bit of color, and I smeared all kinds of white and everything. It's all in whites and grays and blacks. And I call it pentimento, which is just what it means. There was something beforehand. And it's a basis for it. And I'm very fond of that one. I think it holds together well. And that's what counts in a painting. Does it work, as we say? Does it hold together?
I fell in love, as I told you, with the dancers over here. And when did you do this?
I'd have to look at the date on that. Whatever.
That's okay. It doesn't make any difference.
Whatever. It's not that long ago. I had a lot of sketches and studies probably from the League, and I combined probably a lot of those things and then did the composition there. In other words, they have models who pose and action pictures, actions of 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. And I would have taken a lot of my sketches and picked those that I liked that made the painting. And that's where my composition comes into the whole thing. And it's interesting you like that, but you're not unusual because everybody seems to like it. In fact, as I said before, it's going to be shown at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center for 4 months.
What else is going to go down there?
The one up on the hallway, I call that Hakone. That was because it's named after, it's a sculpture that's in the Hakone Sculpture Garden outside of Tokyo. I have a number of paintings of that one. That's going, and the one above it is an abstract, I call it orchestra. I have one that's going that's a quartet. Again, my musical interest there. I have a string quartet for men playing on that. It's a very nice picture. It had been on an exhibit for a while at the Alfieri building in Edison. And that one's going, and I'm going to try to remember, because all in all, there'll be 7 paintings. Oh, one is just a long painting that's got a square of red, a square of white, and a square of blue. And another one is, it's an abstract and impressionistic and a designy kind of thing. I call it dance duet. It's just all kind of forms flowing into one another. And I can't remember the rest, so that'll have to do. But
You're funny.
There are 9 of them.
If you had, and I often ask the artists who come on the show this question, if you had your druthers in the next 10, 15 years.
Wow, should live so long.
Well, from my mouth to God's ear. What would you still want to accomplish with your work, besides getting paid for it?
Besides getting paid for it, accomplish with the work itself? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know if I want to go on and on and on to look for some hidden dream somewhere or some supposed dream. I just enjoy working with the paint and the color. It's simple as all that. I don't know if I'm going to be doing these kind of things in 10 or 15 years or something totally different. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Is there something you would like to do?
No, I don't have that. I just like painting. I enjoy it. I find this is, I guess I enjoy the creativity, but I'm creative about most things anyhow. I mean, that's my personality.
This is such a beautiful gallery.
Well, it started with the redesign. I've had studios elsewhere. In New York, I was in New York for many, many, many years. And then I moved out of New York, couldn't stand it anymore, the commute, and I moved down to Princeton Corporate Plaza on Route 1. I was there 7 years and felt it was time to move. I looked for houses where I could have a studio, and I found nothing. Nothing under $500,000, even then I'd have to design it. So I decided, well, why don't I just add it to the house? And I interviewed several architects. And I chose one, Robert Cerruti from Princeton. And we got along fine, and he seemed to be the kind of person I might like, and especially he had something in his office based on for whom he had worked, and it happened to be an architect I've long admired, so we had a connection there right away. And we went through our problems. I told him what I needed. I said, I buy nothing new, furniture-wise. You've got to incorporate everything I have. This is what I need. And he did a very neat job. I figured everything out by the square inch myself, because I have that inclination, obviously. And but his interpretation of it was excellent. And he's the one who found the contractor, and I worked beautifully with the contractor, and they did a very fast job. Nini is their name. I think they're in Trenton. And we were going to Scandinavia, and I said, you got to have it finished by such and such a time, quick. You know, and believe it or not, it was in April, that was the beginning of April, and we had rains. They couldn't dig out anything for 2 weeks. And they had it finished by the time I left, August 4th. I'm here 4.5 years now. I love it. It's just great.
Well, there's a charm about this personal gallery that a lot of galleries don't have. And I've been in the last 16 years that we've been doing the show, I have been in and out of dozens of them. And this is very charming and very warm.
Well, I think it's the fact that I know architecture. I think I know structural things, and it's very helpful. And a little examples now that you're down here is you see all the network in the ceiling of which are, of course, they're hiding wires and behind it. Well, they were just doing it anyway. I mean, I said, why don't you make it fit this way so that it has a nice look when it's finished? And they were very cooperative and indeed did that. And there are a number of things like that in the studio upstairs. So it was a combination of working with somebody who was he was cooperative, I was cooperative, and we got something nice done. But I've been to enough different places just like you, and I knew what I wanted. I knew pretty much what I wanted.
You spoke earlier about the lack of gallery space in this area.
I think there are not enough places that are in the whole, even Middlesex, I'll go as far as saying that, where there are some individual galleries. There are not enough to show not only my paintings but other people as well.
Now,
I think that's necessary.
Okay, going along that same subject, if someone wanted to see your paintings, your work, to buy,
Hopefully.
how would they reach you? You are available by appointment,
I'm
aren't you?
available. I've had some pieces have been in the newspapers, a little something there, here and there. If you're interested, I'll give you my telephone number. I have been sending out cards, promotional cards, and my brochure. And I am available to show all of my work, and hopefully sales would come from that kind of thing. Everything is by appointment.
It seems our time has run out. It has been so much fun talking to you, but we do have to go, and I know you have things to do. And if you notice a space on the wall and something looks like it's disappeared, it has. I have taken the picture of the ballet.
I know which one. The little one she can hide under her jacket. The dancers.
But thank you again. It has been fun.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this.
Whoops, I got caught. I guess I won't get away with it after all. I had such a ball here today with May Bender. I hope you all did too. I'll see you all next month, and in the meantime, take care.